Morning. It's very quiet here. It's the only time it's quiet here, although we have the enclosure. And I wanted to show you something very unique, which is a synagogue outside. Uh, you know, they say you're not supposed to take photos on Saturday, but you know what? I think it is remarkable. Sadly, the synagogue next to my house doesn't do that. They're inside without masks, but so a little bit about synagogues, if you don't know. They're facing Jerusalem in the east. So this is very unique. You know, Judaism would have been a wonderful religion for me had it not been male dominated. As you can see, the males are leading the prayers. And as much as I can have respect for it, you see, this is how you pray now. There's not one woman leading the prayer. Why? Because according to Judaism, women are not... there's a woman there in the back. So I'm taking a photo. And I think they're upset maybe, I don't know. But this is how it is. So I'm moving on. So can people be together without God? Is it not possible for people to say, hello, Boker Tov, good morning, without God? They're facing Jerusalem. They're back to the ocean. Does it make any sense? Not to me. Only men, you see? Only men. And the women? There's one woman in the back. See? Women in the back. How many lonely people are in apartments that nobody talks to, but they're talking to an invisible entity? This is my problem with religion. This is why this is my religion. A lot of people choose dogs instead of God because it's something tangible. And also, dogs don't differentiate men, women. They're very non-discriminatory. They don't care the color of your skin, and they don't care if you're a man or a woman. Whereas in religion, the men, women, no. A woman, no. Only men. Okay? So this you have the religion and its works. And they do this thousands of years the same. Why? Because they don't question. They're like sheep, meh, 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 meh. Not questioning the woman in the back. And she accepts, I'm in the back, they're in the front. Why? Why? Nobody asks why. That's my problem with religion. They don't really ask. And we're supposed to respect discriminatory mechanisms against women. Why? Why? Not only discriminatory, but not neighborly. It's not like, hey, good morning, neighbor. No, they're talking to God. They're not talking to human beings. And this is what's wrong with religion today. And we're supposed to if you say anything against Judaism, it's anti-Semitism. Well, fortunately, I'm a Jew, so I can say whatever the hell I want. I think for years I've accepted this, and now I no longer accept it. I no longer think there's something holy about men being in the front and women being in the back. I don't think there's anything holy about discriminatory mechanisms that their intentions are to put women in the back while men are in the front. What makes men better than women? And they say, no, women have different roles. You are in the education. We're in the blah, blah. Bullshit. You're leading the prayer. You're the leader. That means the man is more important than women. And this is the message we send little girls like me when I grew up and I went to a synagogue and I saw my grandfather and my father praying up front and the women are somewhere in the back. It sends a strong message about the roles of gender roles in society. And you cannot dispute this. They try to explain it and twist it around. No. If women are important, they should be able to lead prayers. If women are important, they should be in the front, not in the back. And this is something that's good to expose because they're outside, you can see it. They're facing Jerusalem, they're talking to God, but do they know what the neighbor is doing? If people made other people a priority, if women were just as important as men, society would improve. But instead of it, we repeat the same stupid old behaviors from the Middle Ages. And we expect things to improve, and they're never going to improve as long as women are treated as second-class citizens and giving the second row. As long as women are not considered important in religion, and this goes for Christianity as well. How many ministers are there? And yes, there's the reform movement. And I've noticed in Netflix series, they always show women rabbis, which is rare. And this is the reform movement, which is Israel, completely indistinct. Like, the reform movement in Israel has been stepped upon and spat upon and treated as if they're enemies and God knows what. When what they want is change. They want to give equality between the genders. They want the woman to be able to lead a prayer. But the problem is, the whole prayer thing is completely outdated. What they're saying is outdated. The model is outdated. And you take an outdated, it's like computers. We always use the newest programs. You take an old program and you put it into this new computer, which is 2020, and you expect it to work, and it's never going to work. If you really study the Bible, it's very, very outdated. Some things are beautiful. Some things are classic, also from the Greek times. But some things are completely outdated. It enrages me that men have the nerve to continue a religion that makes women second-class citizens, and then they wonder why there's so many problems relations between men and women. It's exactly because of these things. It's exactly because of these things. So, why do we need religion? I don't know. I've often clung to religion. I've often respected it. But you know what? When you respect something that doesn't respect you, you're not going to find a good life. You know, there needs to be respect between people, amongst people. And I don't see that. I don't feel when I go to the synagogue that I'm respected in any shape or form. And I feel the way men treat me is not as their equal. And I feel that in society in every step of the way. Also because schools are mainly women. There are very few men. And the women that rule are not the best women in the world. And Virginia Woolf said it. Women are hiding behind the walls as school teachers. I do like to teach. I have to admit that. Sorry, Virginia Woolf. But the level of teaching is so low that they give the lowest and least paid jobs to women. And then men are dominant. And it starts with the synagogue. It starts with the synagogue and the way men are treated in the synagogue for thousands of years as the leaders, as the enablers, as the big shots. They get to have a bar mitzvah. A bat mitzvah is something completely not important. You know, it's not part of tradition. Actually, my mother told me bat mitzvah doesn't exist. That was her excuse for not giving us a present. I had a very difficult lifestyle exactly because of this reason, that the boy is more important than the girl. And then, you know, discrimination is ugly. But if we don't face it, if we don't look at discrimination in the face and expose it for what it is, we'll always be stuck. We'll always be stuck with these things. And men and women are not the same, but they should have equal opportunities. And while many women achieve more than I have in society, I think that many women are like me, that I didn't even realize how I was brainwashed into thinking that I'm less than a man, that a man is more important than me, that what a man has to say is more important than what I have to say. And you know, that this has been the case for a long time. And then I'm treated like a cuckoo, a little bit crazy, if I say things that are not acceptable. Well, it's time to stop this. I know that I'm not the first one to say it. I didn't invent the wheel. There are feminists screaming that out loud, but then they're mocked and treated in such an ugly manner. Feminism has become a synonym for crazy people that are maladjusted. When in truth, they are just people exposing the lies that are part of the society where male are so dominant. By the way, I wanted to also talk about the Quentin Tarantino film. I can't stand his films, I have to tell you. Women roll there, and You know, the fact that he came to Israel makes me ashamed, because obviously he thinks that Israeli society is something that he can admire. Well, there's a lot of violence in our society. There's a lot of violence in the region where we live. And Quentin Tarantino marrying an Israeli says a lot about what he admires. I mean, he's supposed to expose the violence in American films, but I was watching this film and I felt sick to my stomach. What is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? In a way, it was like payback. What would have happened if, spoilers alert, by the way, if you want to watch the film, if the murder, the Charles Manson murders, Sharon Tate, etc., would have turned out differently? What if there was the pit bull who intervened? I'm not a fan of pit bull dogs, and I'm not a fan of dogs being used to solve human problems. And I don't think violence is the solution. I think violence is the problem. And I think, yeah, he's showing the cowboy films, but it's really naive to think that the cowboy films have any way made American society violent. If anything, the cowboy films are an expression of the foundations of American society, of the violent takeover of land and of the massacre of Native Americans. So to say that, and of course they were portrayed completely falsely in these films. So this fascination with cowboy movies, I just thought, oh my God. Remember my parents taking me to a cowboy film, one of these Westerners, when I was really young, and it was quite violent. Maybe they didn't have a babysitter, I'm guessing, or God knows, or maybe they just wanted to traumatize me, or maybe they just didn't care. In any case, violent films are not in any way contributing to anyone. I asked once, I was in a film festival, and I asked a famous actress, Faye Dunaway, who had a huge cross. She's like a born-again Christian. It's another funny phenomenon in America. So many born-again, I'm found Jesus, and then you can do whatever you want. You can continue a corrupt life, but you found Jesus, yeah. Well, first change your life and don't find anyone. Just find peace, love, and light, you know? So I asked her why there's so much violence in American films, and she said, because violence is part of life. Well, your life is what you make of it. If violence is part of your life, then this is how you choose. So you can live like this. I don't want to speak about him, actually. We only have like one or two, maybe even one, I would say. At this point, I only saw one in our neighborhood. And you know how many there are in the southern part of Tel Aviv, but I heard that in Los Angeles, there are many people that don't have homes. And then there are people that have huge villas worth $14 million, and they have like 10 bedrooms. And you wonder, what's wrong with human beings that allow such a thing to happen? That there's such a discrepancy in some societies between the poor and the rich. And when you hear that the president doesn't even pay taxes. I mean, and I have to pay taxes from every shitty job I have. I mean, I'm talking about US. Here in Israel also, the rich definitely get richer. There are people that have government jobs, and there's a lot of corruption. And the corruption scale in Israel is quite high. And it's sad. It's really sad. But you know what? I can't let that make me depressed or sad. It just makes me more motivated to expose it, to speak about it. But it does begin in the religion. When I studied theater, we studied religion. You know, that's where theater began. It began in Greece, in the ceremonies. It began in the churches. They put up plays. And this is where society starts. Religion has a lot of influence on society. And somehow we need a moral compass. But when it makes women not equal to men, today you could see that the men are standing there and they're just praying, and they're the only ones, and they don't care. They don't give a shit that they're the front. They don't care. And they should care, because